The host wants to set Jungkook as an example, but he's a perfect example of why people don't trust mainstream media. Studio lights too bright. Lights that make people sweat even when they are not nervous. But Jungkook didn't. Not nervous. He sat leaning on a chair with his legs apart, shoulders relaxed, waiting. The audience murmured in anticipation. Some hold their phones, already ready to record. They knew something was going to happen. Opposite him sat Ethan Caldwell, a well-dressed TV presenter which is known for its progressive slope and his love of gotcha moments. He leaned forward, a satisfied smile crawling across his face. He has interviewed politicians, activists, and the Hollywood elite. It always manages to trip them up. But Jungkook? That's new territory. Mr. Jungkook, Ethan began, the sound is smooth, practicing. You have always been a symbol of Korean toughness. But do you think that such a type of masculinity is outdated? I mean, in today's world, don't you think we should redefine power to be more inclusive? Some onlookers chuckled, some nodded in agreement. Ethan fans, the kind to expect he is to trap his guests in their own words. Jungkook blinks slowly, with intentionally. Then he leaned on elbows on his knees and exhaled through his nose. You mean, do I think being tough is a bad thing right now? Ethan grinned. All right, I think we're past the time where men have to struggle to cope with problems. Don't you think the world is already changing from such an ancient mindset? That mindset, can you get people off their seats? Jungkook scratched his chin, then laughed. Not a polite laugh, sincere, deep laughter. Are you serious? He finally said. You think toughness is a problem? Ethan tidied up his tie. I think it could be poison when it inhibits vulnerability, yes. Jungkook nodded slowly, like he was processing. Then he leaned, stretched his body, arms behind his chair. Let me ask you something, he said, low voice, deliberate. If someone breaks into your house tonight, do you want a tough guy there? Or you want someone who will sit and talk about their feelings? The audience let out some bated breath. A few scattered applause. Ethan opens his mouth, but Jungkook isn't done yet. View, toughness is not about punching walls or shout the loudest, but about standing firm when life knocks you down. It's about protecting your family. It's about discipline, respect, hard work. And if you think the world doesn't need that anymore… He shook his head. Then, I don't know what world you live in, man. Ethan forced a laugh, but there was a hint of something behind his eyes. Doubts. He didn't expect Jungkook to respond so quickly, but he didn't give up that easily. Right, Ethan said while shifting from his chair. But don't you think the music industry, and let's be honest, your own songs have glorified toughness as the only solution to the problem? Jungkook did not hesitate. The music industry does a lot of things. You've heard the song where a man saves the world by filling out documents? Laugh this time, real laughter. Even some of Ethan's crew members grinned. But Ethan's not done yet. He still has more tricks up his sleeve. But Jungkook? He just warmed up. Ethan straightened his posture, adjusting the stack of cue cards on the lap, as if looking for the perfect blowback. He is very good at this, controlling the tempo, leads his guests down a path that leaves them no choice besides tripping. But Jungkook doesn't play by the rules. Well, let's talk about influence, Ethan said as he turned his attention back to the note. You have built a career as a tough singer. No nonsense. Character, the man who solves problems with hard work, discipline, or determination. Have you ever thought about the messages you send? I mean, don't you feel a responsibility to promote, say, a more progressive type of hero? The way he emphasizes progressive enough to let the audience know exactly where it's going, making Jungkook grin. He sat down and, stretching his shoulders like a boxer, get ready for the next round. "First of all," Jungkook said, quiet voice, "I make music. Music's not real, you know that, right?" He raised his eyebrows. "I mean, the last time I checked, I never really saved the world by dancing or singing. But what I do know, music is about inspiring people, about making them feel strong, even when life is hard." Some people in the crowd laughed, but Ethan stayed firm, confident. "But music shapes culture. Children grow up listening to your songs. Don't you think we must give them heroes who solve problems without violence?" Jungkook exhaled through his nose. "Man, have you heard my song? The whole message is about getting back up when life knocks you down. Not about violence, rather. It is about heart, perseverance, and determination." The audience applauded a little louder this time. Ethan's jaw clenched. He knew this wasn't going according to plan. So he leaned forward, speaking more softly, more personal. "Okay, fair enough," he said. "But let's talk about the real world. Let's talk about Korea now. We're at a point where people are questioning what does it mean to be a man, what it means to be tough. And some might argue that your version of toughness, that old, which does not show weakness, is part of the problem, which creates more division than unity. What do you think about that?" Jungkook let the question hang in the air, tapping his finger on the armrest. His eyes were locked on Ethan. "Have you ever met a firefighter?" he asked. Ethan blinked. "Excuse me?" A firefighter, a policeman, a member of the military, even a single mother who working 2 jobs just to support himself. Have you ever talked to people like that? You think toughness is their problem? Jungkook shook his head. There is no one. Their toughness is what makes them survive. The running world, the problem is not toughness. The problem is that people think power is a bad thing, like it's dangerous. Weakness is not virtue, friend. Power with control, that's what keeps people safe. Somewhere in the back, a man whistled softly. The energy in the room has shifted. Ethan lost his grip. But what about... Jungkook raised his hand, cutting it off, not aggressive, just enough to make it clear that he is not finished. You want to know the real problem? Jungkook leaned forward. It's not toughness, but people who talk about toughness like the enemy, while living in a world that built and protected by tough guys. You're sitting here in a nice suit, with the questions you have written, trying to tell me what's out of date. Let me tell you something, man. If the world is really messed up, if things go bad, you will be very happy. There are still people like me around. Deadly silence. Ethan swallowed. He had other questions prepared, another attempt to regain control, but the audience has shifted. They don't nod with him anymore. They waited for Jungkook's next words. And Jungkook? He won't give up anytime soon. Ethan shifted in his chair. The energy in the room slipped from his grasp, and he knows this did not go as expected. Jungkook didn't stammer. He didn't trip over his words or get defensive. He controls the room. And now the audience is not just listening. They also supported him. Ethan forced a smile, trying to regain control. I hear you. I understand, he said in a measured voice. But to be honest, there is a difference between being strong and refuse to change. A lot of people will say that's the way you think. It is this old mindset that hinders society. Don't you think it's time to move on? Jungkook exhaled slowly, his gaze calm. He could have replied with another joke, another sharp sentence, but the tone changes, quiet, almost dreamy. Have you ever seen a building being demolished? he asked. Ethan blinked. What? Demolition? Yeah, I guess. Jungkook nodded. It took me a few seconds to drop it. Several times, press the button, and boom, it's gone. He held out both of his hands. But, have you ever seen one being built? Ethan did not answer. That took years, Jungkook continued. Brick by brick, steel by steel. People work day and night, laying the foundation, making sure it can last. Now, people with detonators, they don't care. They don't think about work people who risk their lives to build it. Sweat. They just want to see it collapse. The audience is locked. Nothing moves. You said move forward, Jungkook said, but moving forward is not always the right direction. Sometimes people get so caught up in changing, they don't even stop to think about what they destroyed. They don't ask what they destroyed, maybe it's really worth keeping. Ethan licked his lips. You can feel the weight when she went into this interview, expecting easy target, a celebrity who will give in under pressure, a man who can be reduced to a caricature. But Jungkook proved him wrong, and even worse, the audience knows. It's all right, Ethan said with a little laugh. That's an interesting perspective. But let's be real. Society has changed. We don't live in the same world like when you started your career. People are more aware now. We think critically about gender roles, systemic issues. Think critically, Jungkook interrupted, raising an eyebrow, or simply criticizing. Why do you think so many people reject it? Why do many people feel that it is outdated? Jungkook let the question hang in the air for a moment before leaning over. The voice was lower now, almost like a conspiracy. Because weak people do not like to be reminded that they are weak. The crowd exploded. Some stood up, clapping their hands. The others just sat there, stunned. Ethan opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Jungkook let the reaction ride before sitting back down. Look, he said, I'm not saying everyone should be an action hero. I told you life would give you a blow, whether you like it or not. And when that happens, the world will not care about your feelings. The world will ask you one question. Can you take that hit and move on? Ethan didn't say a word. No reply, just silence. But outside the studio, something bigger happened. Because the moment it appeared on the internet, everything changed. When the interview ends, Ethan can barely keep his professional smile when the camera cuts. But Jungkook just stand up, stretch his shoulders, and waving a small hand to the audience before leaving the set, as if nothing had happened. Backstage, the producers ruffled, Ethan's earpiece filled with frantic voices. It's not going according to plan. Social media has started covering it. Cut out that controversial part before we put it online. But it's too late. Someone in the live audience has uploaded the clip in minutes. The internet became frenzied. Jungkook slams TV host. Jungkook destroyed the awakened media in a live debate. This is why we still need a real man like Jungkook. The video spreads like a forest fire, moving from Twitter to Facebook to YouTube. People cut him the best moments, overlay reaction memes, slow-motion replays, and even dramatic background music. Within hours, the clip became trend #1, and his comments became a battleground. I don't even like Jungkook's music, but this is amazing. He says what everyone thinks, but too scared to say it. Notice how the host doesn't do anything when Jungkook turned things around.